So now we have, you might have noticed that fundamentals of teaching, this course on fundamentals of teaching of Buddhism is much more difficult than the previous coursework, the introduction to historical background of Buddhism. But there aren't many, there's just a few number of fundamental teachings of Buddhism that we have covered all of them. But the last lesson that we are going to have the root cause of all dukkha, because we talked about karma is one of them, rebirth, samsara, nirvana as the solution to samsara, and then interdependent origination or paticca. What else? The five aggregates, and then the four noble truths. They are the fundamental teachings of Buddhism that we have covered. We have covered all of them. But today's lesson, the last one we're going to have on the root cause of all dukkha. So before that, so the entire class time this evening is going to be dedicated to discussing the root cause of all dukkha. Do you have any questions about the topics that we covered, or anything else not really pertaining to the knowledge, but maybe the exams or anything? You are free to ask.
Is there a set length on the essays that we need to write? I know, like, some of the questions that in the practice stuff, it's at one point I think you said 500, but was that for like the homework that you assigned last semester that we?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, right. Like, just as long as we can clearly, demonstrate that we understand the material, then we're probably fine. Exactly.
Yeah. And then there's no length actually.
Okay.
No length. And and you might have noticed that it is pretty much the same questions right from the beginning that we have come across in with slightly different terms, but it's the same questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, thank you.
And then, yeah, thank you. So the root cause of dukkha, and I think I don't need to, as you know, it's negative. Prefix do denotes negative, that which is negative. Ka is no essence, and having experienced something, whether good or bad, you finally end up in a sense of unfulfillment. You either feel that you didn't enjoy enough, or you did, but unless you repeat, you are not happy. Or probably when you enjoy the second time, when you go for a second round, and you don't enjoy it the way you enjoyed the first time. So both failures and achievements land you back in a sense of unfulfillment or kind of disappointment. So that's what dukkha is. Dukkha, meaning everything could be a source of dukkha, depending on how you look at it. While the same thing becomes a source of more dukkha to someone, and it becomes a source of much less dukkha to someone else, and then to another person, it never becomes a source of dukkha, and then they simply enjoy it. But again, that third person also again feel like wanting to try that again, and when he tries it again, and when they try it again, they wouldn't enjoy the way they did the first time or the second time, because you have already experienced it. Once you have experienced it, you are not going to get the same motivation once again. And the motivation diminishes by degrees, and it comes to a point you totally become disinterested in something. So that's why we change our brands, our favorite recipes, our cars, our brands, our costumes, our clothing, and all that. So that's people find it difficult to keep themselves happy like forever. So that unless you try it, unless you repeat it. So that repetition itself is called samsara actually. Samsara is geometrically samsara is considered a cycle, a circle. And then you run in that circle. As your body is fit enough for your consciousness to stay together, which in Buddhist definition is called integration of body and mind, that is our life. And then as we age, finally we have to leave our physical body. And again, you need to come back to the circle to go through the same thing again. That is samsara, and that is dukkha. So, there are the root cause of dukkha, all suffering, unsatisfactoriness, is threefold: lobha, as you know, desire, and dosa is anger, and moha, delusion. And lobha is again is synonymous with tanha or trishna. So we are desirous of anything. We are desirous of something all the time. And as we say, the only thing, so that why the nirvana? Nirvana is, we become desirous of nirvana because at nirvana, you stop being desirous of anything else worldly. So that if there's a kind of desire that is good, and that is called, that is nirvana. But at that time, nirvanic desire, or the desire for nirvana, is very different than sensual desire. So it doesn't, nirvana is not, we go to nirvana not to satisfy our sense faculties, but actually to completely break away from that, completely stop our sense faculties, going after that so-called enjoyment. This is desire and dosa. And then when we are, these three are inseparably interconnected. So that some feelings are created by all these three roots. You can call them three different root causes, or the threefold root cause. I personally like the threefold root cause because all these three things are together taken as one, the three aspects of the same thing, three aspects of the same root, creating or causing dukkha. And then so when you fail to have the desirous, when you fail to achieve the desirous level of enjoyment, and then so that so you tend to reject that immediately. But actually, dosa, why it happens to you is that anger had contributed in creating the enjoyment by lobha. And moha is basically see things as they truly are. Remember, repeatedly we talked about two levels of seeing, two levels of experiencing. To see or experience. So to see things as they, to see or experience as they truly are, really are, or to see or experience as they appear to be. And even the very appearance is problematic to us, as we have discussed multiple times in our past lessons. So that when we are not even in a position to see things as they appear to be, how could we see things as they truly or really are? So then we also discussed in our past lessons that how appearance can be a problematic, and basically we are satisfied with the very appearance, not the substance of a certain reality, not with the essence. We hardly see the essence of a certain reality, and we simply see the very appearance of a certain reality. So that when the dining table is full of dishes and they are very colorful and they look delicious, and what we immediately say is look delicious, not taste delicious, right? The first thing we say is it looks delicious. And then when you look at some food and say it looks delicious, meaning we are already in the middle of consuming it. At that point, we are consuming the food, not literally, but that's called on the perception level. So that this is called the perspectival shift. And always a perception has different shifts. When we see the food based on the degree of hunger that we are having, and then we would enjoy the very sight of the food. And then by the time we eat it, we may or may not enjoy the way we were enjoying the food by looking at it. Or probably you are really enjoying the food because you are hungry. And then you continue to eat and you fill your tummy with the food, and then you can't eat anymore. And then just walk away from the table for a couple of minutes and come back and look at the table. And you don't see the table the way you saw it at the first time. Why? Because now your perception has changed, because you are no longer hungry. And so that you are using a different perception now. And there has been a big shift in your perception. And if I ask you to eat more and you would simply refuse. If I ask you a second time, a third time, a fourth time, thereby I can get you angry as well, dosa. And then and then why you are angry? Because you are no longer have lobha. You are no longer desirous of the food. And then so that if I force you to eat more, and you can even hit me, I can very easily get you angry, and dosa. And then what is moha there? Moha there is a delusion. To an enlightened person, the food looks the same before, when he is hungry, and after he has eaten, the same way. But to us, the food appeared in two different ways. When we were hungry as you were taking the first look at the food, when that time we were hungry, and the food looked the best in the world. And then after lunch, after meal, and then food doesn't look the way it appeared to our naked eyes the first time it did, because now our perception based on the satisfaction based on the level of satisfaction, so our perception has changed. So that's how this lobha, desire, dosa, anger, and moha, delusion together becomes the root cause of all types of sufferings, like food. And then when you see the first time you met your partner, you like him or her, and then halfway through your relationship, you start finding faults with your partner, and you there are arguments, there are debates, there are disagreements, and then all of a sudden you decide to break up, and then you break up with your partner in a way that you become each other's enemies, like forever. Or maybe sometime later, again, you befriend each other, you meet each other, you feel like wanting, you feel like meeting or seeing and living together with that party again. and then you get back together. And so that's how it's all, everything our mind plays, our mind creates different levels of dukkha based on how far we are desirous, how far we have lobha, how far we are angry or frustrated about, how far we reject what we used to love, that is anger, and how many times or how far we perceive the same thing in different ways, by different degrees, on different occasions, by using different approaches based on the degree of our need. So that's how. And in addition to this, lobha, dosa, and moha, Buddha also talks about three opposite, a threefold opposite root cause. That means non-lobha. I mean, alobha. I think that's the notepad. Okay, chat box. That is alobha. But alobha, Buddha uses the same words in the negative, meaning that is non-desire. And then dosa, that is non-anger. And the last one, amoha, non-delusion. So why had Buddha use the same thing instead of using lobha, that means desire, absence of desire, or instead, and then he used the same word, non, that's the Buddha's terminology, non-desire, non-anger, non-delusion. You can very easily come up with antonyms. Antonyms are opposite of these terms, but Buddha doesn't do that. What he does is, how he explains is, lobha is the fundamental, lobha, dosa, and moha, or desire, anger, and delusion are the fundamental root cause of suffering. Whereas non-desire, non-anger, non-delusion, or alobha, adosa, amoha are not fundamental. That is the adopted root cause, not the fundamentally, not the built-in root cause. And we are equally, maybe if I put another more clear way, so that what is fundamental to our existence are the negative root causes. That is lobha. And in alobha, adosa, amoha, that is non-desire, non-anger, non-delusion, are not as fundamental to our existence as possible. And then what happens? That point is, non-anger has to be, non-desire has to be purposely practiced. So the lobha or desire is natural. Non-desire has to be purposely practiced. And adosa or anger is natural. Non-anger or adosa has to be purposely adopted, purposely practiced, adopted. And then moha is natural. And so the opposite of it, that is amoha, non-delusion, has to be purposely practiced. So that because they are not as fundamental. The good side of the root cause, the good root cause is not as natural as the negative or the bad root cause. So that's why purposely by nature, we get inclined towards, how to say, people get inclined towards trying bad things, I mean, more naturally, right? People, now, if you get a bunch of youngsters in the school kids, and then if you ask them, okay, go hit that, and you show them another student standing alone, and you ask a bunch of kids to go and hit him, and at no time will they rush and hit him. But at the same time, you ask them, okay, and then so that you ask, that student is hungry, he doesn't have any food, and you suggest the bunch of kids that they share their meal with the one standing there alone. At that time, for sure, it will take them more time to think about it. But at no time, they will rush and hit that person the moment you ask them to do that. By nature, we get controlled by the negative root cause much faster than the positive root cause. If I use more correct terms, so the root cause of goodness, the root cause of good behavior, and then the root cause of bad behavior, two different behaviors. That's why good is much harder to do. Evil is much easier to do than the good. That's because by nature, we are driven by the negative root cause, anger, delusion, and so the desire, anger, and moha. That's when I think you might have, you may see, whenever Buddhist people talk about good and evil, like a mantra, they always say lobha, dosa, moha. And then if you ask why they meditate, and they would say, okay, I need to overcome, reduce my desire, anger, and delusion. So all these, every action, every thought that we think, every unwholesome thought that we think, every unwholesome word that we speak, every unwholesome things that we do with our physical body, is more or less created by lobha, dosa, and moha, the three root causes. Any questions about that? No, I guess. And then I think in one of our previous lessons, we did touch upon this, so that these latent tendencies, there are latent tendencies that contribute towards our samsara. Now, once again, why is nirvana so important in Buddhism? Because as long as we don't achieve nirvana, and we keep coming back to the cycle. The cycle itself is called samsara. And then, as you know, in Buddhism, samsara is very different than samsara as taught in Hinduism. So in Hinduism, samsara has a vertical connection with the divine or Brahman, the creator, because finally you came back from Brahman, and one day you are going back to him. So whereas when it comes to Buddhism, samsara does not have that vertical connection with whatsoever creator God. It is simply a cognitive. It's simply a cognitive process. Samsara. It's not a cosmic process. Again, remember the two terms that we discussed: cosmic process and cognitive process. Cognitive is all about your mind. Cognition is internal. Cosmic is external, and cognitive process is vertical. It has a vertical connection, and the cognitive process, samsara as a cognitive process, does not have any connection whatsoever with the creator, because Buddhism being a humanistic religion, everything is understood within, everything is internalized. There's no cosmic connection whatsoever. The only cosmic connection in Buddhism is there are cosmic beings. There can be bodhisattvas. Basically, most bodhisattvas in Mahayana Buddhism are cosmic. And then also there are other deities, other divine beings, but they don't have the capacity of creating other beings. So they are very different than creator gods. There's a multitude of gods living in different realms, Brahmas, normal sensual devas, bodiless ones. There are different types of divine beings, but they are similar to angels in Western religion. But they don't have the capacity to create someone else, and they can come down to help you out. And or even just like in Christianity and other Western religions, in Buddhism also, you believe that based on the level of goodness, and then when divine beings are impressed with your goodness, and when you are in trouble, when a good person is in trouble, so the divine beings would descend from heaven and they would help you out. And you come up with that belief in Buddhism as well, just like angels or patron deities, patron saints are overseeing your action, and they would come to your rescue. But other than that, as you know, Buddhism being a humanistic religion, even the highest, we also, Buddhism does talk about cosmology, and within the Buddhist cosmology, there's no one single Brahman or creator who oversees, who governs everything. And so that there's no, nirvana is not connected. Nirvana is not interconnected with the divine, with God, with Brahman, and it is simply internal process. It's a cognitive process. Those are the couple of words that we use to identify nirvana or salvation based on the type of religion. In theistic or theocentric religions, it is a theistic. There's a vertical connection. In man-centered or anthropocentric religions, it is the same. It is a cognitive process. That being said, now these latent tendencies, I think in modern psychology, or I think if I am right, Sigmund Freud also talked about latent tendencies, right? And he talks about this id, ego. So that what is that? The three things. What is that? Id, ego, superego. And then modern psychology also talked, both Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud talks about latent tendencies, the kind of tendencies that govern us, that controls us, that lead us in our social life, but we hardly identify them. And Buddha talks about 7 such latent tendencies. They are from the Anguttara Nikaya, that's from the Anusaya Sutra. And then I have defined the word here, Anusaya. So actually this lesson would serve as a prelude to all the lessons of fundamental teachings that we discussed. Without dukkha, without samsara, nirvana has no value in Buddhism. So that and then rebirth has no value. So that's why Buddha always gives priority to an explanation plus these 7 latent tendencies. But these 7 latent tendencies help us to identify what is called the unseen, unknown aspect of our being, our selfhood. So they are called anusayas. This term anusaya is usually translated as underlying tendency or latent tendency. The term literally means dormant or to lie down with. In actual use, it means be obsessed something. And just skip the Pali one, satyame bhikkhave anusaya katame sapta. And you can skip the Pali terminology. And there are 7 such. So that different people translate anusaya in different ways. Anusaya means sleepy, dormant, subconscious, unseen, unknown tendencies. So there are such 7. So these anusayas are considered part of the fundamental function of our consciousness, psyche, for the deep because they deeply affect our character and behavior. So psyche is pretty much, it is used as a modern psychological terms. So in Greek religion, Greek-Roman religions, theistic or God-centered religions, psyche is taken in terms of soul. And it is in Buddhism, in non-theistic Buddhism, it is taken in terms of consciousness. And in modern psychology, it is taken in terms of mind in general. So psyche is used here due to its widespread. So these latent tendencies are innate, meaning they are natural. We were born with these 7 tendencies, and they need to be managed. And then when it comes to the 7 latent tendencies, the first one is sensual passion, the latent tendency of sensual passion, the latent tendency of resistance, vivus, uncertainty, conceit, passion for becoming or re-becoming, ignorance. These are the 7. And we did talk about them maybe twice or so in our previous lessons. Why I thought I should discuss them again is based on a universal statement that Buddha has made. And Buddha says, as long as a puggala or an individual fails to see things as they truly are, he may keep himself away from nirvana. What this implies is when an individual, puggala, sees things as they truly are, then he is closer to nirvana, he is there. And so that we live in our existence is such that we don't see a simple visual object, a simple object that is visible to our naked eyes. We find it difficult to have what is called a perfect or an unchanging definition, interpretation of that. Always our interpretation, as I said, our definition is based on the degree of need that we are having. So that's why always there's our conclusions, our definitions, our interpretations of things that are visible to our eyes, or things that we hear with our ears, things that we smell with our nose, things that we taste with our tongue, things that we feel with our skin, and also things that we get in touch with our mind at the sixth sense. And we fail to come up with what is called a permanent definition, or an unchanging definition, unchanging permanent interpretation. Always we change, and then on second thought we change. We can have second thoughts. So, and because of that, Buddha encourages us to look within and see. So what controls us? One day he was asked this question, and that occurs in the Samyutta Nikaya. And then the question was, a deity, a divine being, Buddha is asking the Buddha this question: what controls the universe? What creates the beings? What creates the universe? What controls the universe? To which force? To what sort of force? What sort of authority that people surrender themselves to? And Buddha simply gave one single answer. He said, it's your mind. It's your mind that controls you. It's your mind that you surrenders to. If there's one single authority in the universe that everyone becomes a slave to, everyone submits themselves to, it is none other than the mind. And then Buddha, so that mind is the only thing. I think that corresponds to the first line of the first line of the first verse in the Dhammapada also. Everything is forerun by the mind. Of mind is the forerunner, and so mind is the only thing. So that's why. Even though Buddhism talks about cosmology, the cosmos, the universe, and in all ways, so the Buddha reduces the boundaries of the universe within the mind, and instead of the large external universe, Buddha encourages people to think about the inner universe, within which all sufferings are. And one day he was asked where dukkha is, and he said, I'm just saying that in Pali, you don't have to worry about that. And he said, Imasming eva byama matte kalebare. Within this fathom long body, fathom long means fathom tall body. Dukkhanta panyapemi. I see dukkha. Dukkha samudayanta panyapemi. I see the very origin of that dukkha. Dukkha nirodhanta panyapemi. I see the way out of that dukkha. Dukkha itself, its birth, and the way out of it are all within this fathom long body, meaning the personhood. Within this selfhood, everything is there. And so that's why Buddha identified everything. And then he encouraged, whenever some people ask Buddha about astronomical questions, astrological questions, cosmological questions, and at times he would give long answers. And there are, of course, there are discourses, sutras, where you come back to the Buddha's explanation of the physical universe. But his purpose, the purpose of the Buddha is very different. So that it's very different. Now, it's like if you are a counselor and then you are now counseling a game addict, right? And then if you are a addiction counselor, and you yourself play games, and you know the value of that, you need that. Whereas when you are talking to a game addict and you never promote games, even though you personally like it or you see some benefit. Why? Given the purpose, you each and every word that you speak for the person that who is on the receiving end of your counseling, guidance counseling, each and every word that you speak for that person is discourages the addicted person for games, and you speak the words of discouragement, and you were to speak of distraction, and everything you say is for the purpose of distracting the addicted person from the games. That is the purpose. Likewise, now Buddha has talked about the physical universe, and he did accept the existence of different divine beings, different realms, different world systems, 1,100 world system, 1,000 world system, 10,000 world systems, and galaxies and all that, and then powerful divine beings. And then most of the time, he would stick to his goal. He wanted to distract people, especially those who were deeply interested in astronomy, astrology, cosmology, and all that. And he would slowly and steadily divert their attention, and they would get their attention paid onto their own empirical existence. Why? Because the Buddha's purpose is to give people a clear understanding, clear understanding of their existence. In a way, in layman's language, nirvana is when you have studied and you have seen all the unseen, unknown aspect of your existence. And then so that to an enlightened person, there are no hidden areas of consciousness. There are no unknown areas of selfhood. And to an enlightened person, all the areas are known. And in order to achieve that, and Buddha encourages us to define and interpret and constantly revisit our inner nature, especially as a bodhisattva, as we just talked, if you use the Buddhist term, in light of these 7 latent tendencies, because these are deeply rooted in our consciousness. And most of the time we only see the reflection of these latent tendencies, not the very latent tendencies themselves. And then, so one, we will discuss that. First one is sensual passion, kama raga. Kama means desire. Raga is mostly sexual energy. Kama raga together is called anything romantic, anything sensual you do in order to satisfy your lustful feelings. That is called kama raga, the first one. So elsewhere, kama and raga are considered 2 different things. But here it is one thing, kama raga. It's a latent tendency. And then so human beings have kama raga, hell beings have kama raga, and then animals, they have kama raga, divine beings, not Brahmas, but Brahmas have rupa raga. They have desire for image, self-image. Other divine beings and human beings, and they have desire for sensual passion. The only way. And then Brahmas, they still have raga, but their raga is not for sensual satisfaction. They still enjoy their appearance, their physical body. They are still attached to their physical body. So that is why Brahma as a Hindu term means that is the domain of salvation. So that is where you come from, and that is where you go one day. Instead of one Brahma in Hinduism, there are many Brahmas in Buddhism. So plural. So Brahmas have rupa raga. They still have raga. Raga means lustful feelings. They are lustful of their physical image, but they don't have active sexual feelings. So kama raga is the first one. And kama raga can be as simple as this pair of glasses. I just got it from London yesterday. I liked it. When I saw this, I was so impressed. I like the shape, right? What is that? That is my kama raga to this pair of specs, glasses. Right? These are my glasses. When I first wore them yesterday, I was so happy. And I went to the mirror and looked myself inside in the mirror. And then, and like this, expensive glasses. And someone checked my eyes, and the same eye doctor purchased this for me. And then what is that new? Now, see, instantaneously I grabbed my pair of glasses and I'm talking about it. The moment that I'm talking about it, I'm enjoying it, enjoying the very sight of it. Whereas some of you looking at the glasses may not like these glasses. Why? You don't like the frame, you don't like the shape, you don't like the color. So we have different kama raga for different things. We derive sensual passion in different ways. That is the first one. Any questions?
Yeah, is it possible to get a copy of this document, Bhante?
Yes, I can email you.
Okay.
Okay, I can post it on Slack. Oh no, I will send it to the group email. Just like I did for the sample questions. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And the first one. The second one is, see here, we can on and off, we can relate these 7 latent tendencies with the 3 aspects of root cause, right? So that the first one, kama raga, sensual passion, is related. It is interconnected with, so sensual passion is basically created by lobha, desire. See the connection here, lobha, desire, and that is raga, sensual passion. So that in creating this latent tendency of sensual passion contains more lobha than dosa and moha. And then second one, where the second one is resistance. Now, second latent tendency of resistance. Now, it's a form of anger. So patika. So the tendency of resistance is from among different types of anger. So dosa, the resistance is considered the most subtle, or the one that is most difficult to understand. Now, you could still be angry in terms of resistance. You may be having a sense of resistance, but people would not notice that. Why? Unlike the normal anger, you can very easily hide resistance. And then I know lots of people, because in case someone, if you feel like, if you are getting heated, if you become like restless, and then if you feel like getting how to say, restless in front of someone who is saying certain things, and that particular mindset is called the resistance, tendency of resistance of patika. And then your immediate response or reaction to your own resistance, patika, could be that you start laughing or smiling or trying to crack some jokes just to distract yourself, because you feel like you don't really like the way someone is talking to you. And so, and based on that, that's when Buddha says, is from the surface level, when you look at someone's face, you can say whether someone is having a sense of resistance, because how we unlike other types of anger, and Buddha talks about different types of anger. Normal anger is, as we saw, dosa. Dosa is normal anger. And then kodha. Kodha is sudden burst of anger. And then so vera is subtle and longer lasting anger. Dosa, kodha, vera. Where Buddha says, how to say, hatred can only be seized by hatred. At that time, hatred is vera. If I type with the Pali words, English translations within brackets, like normal anger. Normal anger is dosa, and then kodha is sudden burst of anger that leads to a disaster. Kodha, sudden burst of anger, and most of the time you get ample examples of kodha in courts of law, right? And then when the judge is inquiring into the motive of murder, and when the murderer is accused, so that when he is tried in a court of law, when the judge, one of the first things the judge would look into, and I know I don't have to say that some of you are attorneys, lawyers, and you work in the legal field, and so that if in case of sudden, and then so in case you continue to in case you, as the criminal, you stabbed someone multiple, like 20, 30 times, and then you shot multiple shots by killing, in order to kill someone. And perhaps it only takes you one bullet, and you only need to stab once. But let's say you stabbed the person, victim, like 30 over times. Even though you could have killed that person, the victim, with one bullet, and you fired like 30 bullets or so. And if you do that one only, and then most of the time, you could argue, your attorney could argue that it was due to sudden anger, like Koda. Whereas in case you stabbed the person, the victim, like multiple times, like 12, 30 times, definitely it took you more time to do that. And then you kept firing at the victim, even though the victim got killed with one bullet, the first bullet, and then you still had anger, and that is longer lasting anger, and that is called Vera. That is hatred. Hatred as a type of anger in Buddhism is longer lasting anger. It can last beyond a lifetime. And then, so we talked about samsaric anger in Buddhism. Like someone comes after you, there are lots of stories. That Devadatta, for example, Devadatta, the Buddha's cousin, who tried to kill him several times, who broke away the Sangha, and who tried to kill him. He attempted to kill him few times, and then so Devadatta, he had Vera. Vera means hatred, meaning his anger lasted beyond different lifetimes. That's a longer lasting anger. And then, so of these different types of anger, there are other types of anger as well, because these are the major types of anger. Dosa, normal anger. Koda, sudden burst of anger that leads to a disaster. And Vera, silent and slow anger, so that can last a whole lifetime or even beyond. And then, so what is more disastrous is not dosa, koda, or Vera, but this one, patika on daily life. Now, this is a more subtle form of anger, patika, resistance. That you resist someone means you are angry. You don't like talking. You don't feel like talking to someone. The nature of resistance is to try your best to avoid that person. And where Buddha talks about how we get deluded by our own mind, where Buddha talks about masquerading tendencies of the mind. Masquerading tendencies of the mind is one of the most interesting areas of Buddhist psychology, but we never happen to discuss them because it's way outside of this coursework. Maybe in the future we will talk about that. It's very interesting how we get masqueraded, how we get deluded by our own honest feeling. We are honestly devotional at the beginning, for example. We are honestly helping someone out of devotion, or that we are really enjoying the voice of a beautiful chant, or the voice of someone, a monk or a nun or a priest or someone else chanting, singing a hymn or a chant. And later you find out that when you listen to someone else chanting the same thing, singing the same hymn, you don't like it. Why? Because, and that's okay, I only like the first person. At that point, you have, you have desire. You have raga for that person's voice. At the same time, when you listen to the second person, and his voice is not as impressive as that of the first person, and then you feel, I don't like it. Meaning, at that point, when you say I don't like it, That point you are already having, your mind is getting already directed by the latent tendency of particle resistance. The resistance is the more subtle form of anger. Second one. So, and then third one, particular. Third one is views, ditti. Now, that is the most difficult one to explain. Remember the first one, the first factor of the Noble Eightfold Path, Samma Ditti, right view. So Buddha says that it's difficult to deal with this latent tendency of view, ditti, because the very person who hold that view always tend to justify his view. So it could be a political view, religious view, any kind of view. And then and what is the root cause? What area of root cause the ditti basically comes from? It comes from moha. But by the way, once again, just to kindly remind you, any of these latent tendencies are more or less created by some or higher degree of lobha, dosa, and moha all. But given the nature of these individual latent tendencies, a certain aspect of the root cause could have a bigger role. Like when it comes to this third one, that is ditti. Ditti is more, it comes more from moha or delusion. Now, as long as you hold on to your ditti, and you know that your ditti is the wisdom, your view is the right view, and what you know is right, and then your idea, others must accept your view. So that's why, and so at this point, remember, and Buddha doesn't recommend logics. Now, logics are valid. Logics is a whole different subject. You studied logics as part of your curriculum, and lawyers, attorneys, judges, and anyone needs to learn logics. So that all us we look for in science also, we need logical explanation. And we always, whenever we use the word explanation, we use the logical as an adjective. Give me a logical explanation of that. Buddha values logics, but not totally. Beyond a certain point, as Buddha says, logics loses its value. Why? Because through logics, you can continue to prove your point, your view. But at times, logics don't help us. And then, so these sutras in this part of the canon, Buddhist canon, Digha Nikaya, or means long length sayings, or the Digha Nikaya of the Pali canon, contains most of the logical arguments and debates that different people, different intellectuals, different logicians had with the Buddha. One of the well-known logician during the Buddha's time was Satchaka the logician. Satchaka the logician. And then because of him, certain sutras that Buddha gave in the Digha Nikaya has become so long that those discourses, and you easily lose interest in reading those sutras because of the redundancy. And it's lots of redundancy. There's lots of redundant statements because that's how its logics are. Now, in most of the logical, regarding most of logical arguments, And Buddha refused to argue anymore, and he simply says, the world wants to debate with me. The world wants to argue with me. I have no debate. I have no argument whatsoever with the world, because beyond a certain point, logic loses its value. Why? Logic only strengthens someone's views. You can prove that. For example, now, so that logically, I can prove that a mango tree and an apple tree are the same. How? Because both are trees, and apple is a fruit, so is a mango. Because both apple trees and mango trees are trees, so it's the same, it's a tree. And then but their leaves look different, but it doesn't matter, because first we talk about the trees, then the leaves, and again when it comes to fruit also, apple fruit is different than the mango fruit. Mangoes and apples are very different than from each other. Mango is tropical, apple is not tropical. And then, but again, even though the apples and mangoes are very different from each other, the trees are different, their genes are different, the way they grow based on the geographical area they grow, they are different. But still, logically, I can prove that mango tree, a mango tree and an apple tree are the same. That's logics. And so that's when, to a certain extent, logical explanations are important, and certain beyond logical explanations, Buddha recommends meditative experience. Meditative experience versus logical explanations. So at certain point, the Buddha would smile, and then at times, like logicians like the Satchaka at times felt that they were victorious. And when Buddha was smiling, and Satchaka would ask, Gautama, why are you smiling? Meaning, you must accept the defeat, but instead of accepting the defeat, you are smiling. And Buddha says, nobody won at this point, and I'm not going to explain anymore. Why? Because we can go a few rounds of the same logical argument, but with no party winning. And then what do you say? And Buddha says, I'm going to be silent. But can silence help us to resolve? And Buddha says, maybe not, but you may not think like that, but I do. I recommend meditative experience. So that's when Ditti comes from moha or delusion. And so that the very person who holds a certain view and then believes that his view is right. But at this time, you might be holding a right view. But still, in order to get it verified, you are not supposed to be defensive. You are not supposed to be defensive of your view. And you need to leave it open for people to talk about. And then you welcome other people's ideas. And that's how we would overcome, because you need to make sure, fundamentally, we believe that whatever the views that who we hold are the right views, whereas other people's views are wrong. That's what basically do. That's why over the religious history you have seen there have been the most disastrous, most unpleasant logical arguments and debates have been between religions, right? Religion is supposed to be something that pacifies, that cools people down. But there have been wars, battles over religion, over which religion is true, which religion is false, and then but again, religion has to be something that is a source of peace, inner peace. But that it hasn't been the way most of the time throughout the history. It has been the opposite. has been a source of war or battle rather than peace. Now, when it comes to ditti, and then so ditti is harmful, as Buddha says, because you are not willing to have an open dialogue, open discussion. So that's when Buddha mentioned ditti, right view, samma ditti, as the first factor. Because even if you try you practice other factors of the Noble Eightfold Path, as long as your ditti is wrong, there's no moving forward, and you cannot achieve your goal. And that's number 3. Now, okay, now it's what time? 2:35. So, and next one is vicikiccha, the latent tendency of uncertainty. Vicikiccha. Vicikiccha or uncertainty is another. I think, remember during our coursework into historical introduction to the historical background of Buddhism, we happened to come across 2 types of doubts, 2 types of uncertainties: speculative uncertainty or doubt, and investigative doubt. Let me get this speculative. Speculative uncertainty and investigative doubt or uncertainty. Speculative uncertainty and investigative uncertainty. Now, maybe you are in quest of a religious reality, or you are in pursuit of religious knowledge, spiritual knowledge, psychic knowledge, metaphysical knowledge, whichever it is. And as a beginner, you have certain level of uncertainty. But that uncertainty is harmful as long as that uncertainty remains what is called speculative uncertainty. Because you can keep speculating over and over and again for years, for decades, but you are not speculative uncertainty leads to the strengthening or the confirmation of your wrong view. Because first, and then you tend to use why Buddha didn't approve speculative doubt or uncertainty means you use when you are speculative, you continue to justify. You justify your beliefs, you justify your actions, you justify your opinions, your views. Whereas in investigative doubt, you also leave it open-ended, and you also welcome other people's ideas. And then you may even go to the extent that you ask others for their opinions. So that and then uncertainty only has a value when it is the investigative uncertainty, not the speculative uncertainty. Speculative uncertainty continues to harm your wisdom, your effort of acquiring wisdom. There is vicikiccha or uncertainty. We all have uncertainties. So that and then uncertainty is such, psychological speaking, that it makes us have second thoughts. So having studied something, having listened to an insightful talk or a dialogue, and you could clarify the things that you had been waiting to get clarified, but again, a day, 24 hours later, you found yourself on second thought. On second thought, you feel like going back going back on your decisions, assumptions, and at that point you are back in your typical nature of uncertainty. Typical nature of uncertainty is the latent tendency. So that is the speculative uncertainty. And it has to be purposely transformed into investigative uncertainty. And investigative uncertainty motivates you to study further. And whereas speculative uncertainty makes you imagine further, create more imagination, have to get more romantic imagination of the view that you already hold, and you never want anyone else to counter that. You don't feel like asking anyone else for second opinion, and you just stick to that. So that is obsession of, the latent tendency of uncertainty. And number 5 is the obsession of, or the latent tendency of conceit. Now, what is conceit? So I think we started the session at 1:30, 12:30. That is now 12:30, 1:30, 1:45. It's been 1 hour, and so okay, 2:30. So let's take.
All right. Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay. Now, yes, number 5 is conceit, mana. Now, the technical English term for mana has 2 different meanings. Mana, there are 2 English terms for mana in Pali, that is conceit and pride. But in Buddhist, as a Buddhist term, pride, we don't use pride as a translation of mana, even though mana both means pride and conceit, because in English, as you know, pride has a positive connotation. National pride, individual pride, pride of the nation and all that. So whereas we use the word conceit. And then, so this is another building block to nirvana. And where does mana comes from? As you know, all these 7 latent tendencies are more or less created by, more or less due to any of those 3. So that mana comes from all the 3 roots. So that's why mana is considered one of the worst latent tendencies, because lobha, desire, dosa, anger, and moha, delusion equally contribute towards creating mana. Or so mana is conceit. Those who are conceitful, and then so that they always think about their boundaries, and they think about their comfort zone. By the way, comfort zone is a good thing. Now, people are unnecessarily concerned with their comfort zone. It's because of their mana. And conceit has 3 levels again. Remember, during our previous coursework, we did talk about mana, discuss mana in 3 levels. Superiority, basically superiority and inferiority. And then a 3rd level, in modern psychology, they are considered complex. It becomes a complex when it is more like a chronic. So, so that it has 3 levels then. Superiority, level of mana. And mana, by the way, literally means measuring. Mana literally means to measure. To measurement. It's a measure. What do you measure is, you measure yourself against others in terms of background, education, ethnicity, citizenship, country, knowledge, job, money, beauty, and there could be different. There could be many different things that you use to measure yourself against others. And that's called mana, superiority. those who feel superior to others. And the second one is so that you find yourself equal to someone who you find yourself equal to someone who is higher than you, but not as high as those who have superiority complex. For one example is, let's say, people happen to do things, because I know these things in my interpersonal guidance counseling sessions. For example, people use their car as a criterion of mana, criterion of conceit. For example, now, one who has the most expensive car, and then so nobody would beat him in terms of money or wealth or whatever. And they are the so-called affluent people, the richest people in the world. And they live in a different world. And they have superiority level of mana. And then when it comes to the second level, okay, so that your car is worth 25,000, and my car is worth 20,000, and then there's a 5,000 difference. But I feel like I can very easily equal myself to you, and then okay, well, you make more money than I do, but the difference is that not that much. Your car is more expensive, but the difference in price is not that much. And then so that your education is much higher than mine, but there is no much difference, no much difference between your education and my education. And so that I always target someone, choose someone. I target you, I choose you, and then so that you are higher than me, but I also want to prove that I am equal to you. So that's why we don't use the term equality, because equality has a good connotation, positive connotation. So that is second level of mana. In those who have the second level of mana, and they always choose someone who is higher in every possible respect. And then you easily find a way to say that you are equal to them. It has nothing to do with the equality ideal or equanimity whatsoever. Here it is, you feel negative. You feel negative of yourself, and so that you need someone, you need to find some solace, and so that you need to satisfy your failure to be equal to someone. So somehow you find someone, and then you go extra. You really get tired. Even if you get tired of comparing yourself, that's called a negative comparison. Comparing yourself to someone else, but finally somehow you come up with a satisfactory conclusion that, okay, so and so is no different than me, I'm similar to him. That's also mana. But the third level is inferiority complex. It could be a complex as well, inferior. And you feel so low against someone, and you feel inferior to someone, and then you don't like to socialize with them. And then so that you are very negative. As a social being, you are absolutely negative. And then so those who have inferiority mana, the lowest level of mana, they find it difficult to get along with others, because you always look at yourself as not deserving such a good company. I have come across people in different workplaces, in families also. What Buddha says is, so that the inferiority mana, or the lowest level of mana, is the most harmful. So that when it comes to superiority mana, so that it's beyond argument that your social status is way higher than most other people. And so that we are not talking about good or bad here. We just explain mana. We are not being judgmental here. Now, those who have, for example, I met some people from New Jersey area, and they have a few jets, they have a few houses, breakfast in New York, lunch in Bahamas, and then dinner somewhere else, and then so that they have a wife, they also have mistresses, they have all kind of connections, and they have everything in their life. At the same time, they are beyond touch, and they only get alone, hang around with certain people whom they think are suitable for them, and that is like the affluent few people, right? And they have superiority complex, but they hardly come down to the level of the ordinary people. But in a way, superiority complex is not as dangerous, disastrous as the third one, inferiority complex. Except that when the superiority, when the guy who has superiority complex is a politician or a world leader, at that point it's different. If it's a private citizen, one who is a private citizen having superiority complex doesn't do much harm to the society, because he always gets along with a certain type of people that suits their status, except a world leader or someone. So that and there's a fine line between superiority mana and inferiority mana, and sometimes it happens to superiority people as well at times when they are utterly suspicious of others, when their level of insecurity is way high, despite they are being superior, feeling superior to everyone else, they might even limit their social movement. It happens to emperors like that. To the end of the day, what happened to the Muammar Gaddafi of Libya, and Saddam Hussein of Iraq, and Hitler? What happened to them? They felt superior to the whole world, but later there's this fine line, as Buddha says, between inferiority and superiority. And when you stop trusting others, and then when you don't even trust your inner circle, your security, and then so that you feel lonely, you start feeling left out, and as a result you end up in what is called inferiority, and then you become asocial, not really anti, so asocial. You want to walk away from the society. And so those are the three levels of mana. And number 6 is the obsession. That's the passion for becoming or re-becoming bhavaraga. This is more like, and this also comes from, what is that? This basically comes from lobha, desire. This is about your unsatisfactoriness. This is your sense of unfulfillment regarding your life overall. Bhava is to become, to come back, raga, and the desire thereof. You are desirous of coming back in a way that you must not go through the same cycle of agony, and then you must relive your life. You fail to achieve things, fix certain things in your life, and then you feel like coming back to life. And then this has a supernatural extent as well. Let's say you need to come back to life in a different life form beyond this life. So that's why this has a supernatural extension as well. But in day-to-day life also, you are constantly, constantly directed by this latent tendency. You need to repeat your being. For the last 25 years, 35 years, 40, 50 years, you tried to become something, and then you hardly achieved that, or maybe you are not happy with the way you have been, and mentally, emotionally, you always revisit your personal history and mentally, emotionally fixed certain failures, and then you come back to the conscious life, And again, you travel to that fantasy type of dark world, and then you go there and then fix certain things emotionally and come back. And you even say to yourself, if I go back, I will fix this. If I go back, I will fix that. If I go back, I start everything all over again. And that tendency is called the tendency of Bhava Raga. Bhava is existence. Existence at this point is our empirical existence. Raga is to, and then attachment. And so that is your lustful. So lustful feelings is not about sexuality actually. You also create a cute, fancy lifestyle individual out of yourself who is all perfect and all attractive. And so that, but in conscious life, you don't feel like that way. Then what you do is you revisit your personal history, and then you fix yourself emotionally, mentally. And then that tendency that it is called Bhavaraga, or re-becoming tendency, passion of re-becoming. Raga can also be translated as passion. So it means both lust and passion. That's the number 6. And Bhavaraga, one ample example for Bhavaraga is aging. Now, aging wise, I have noticed that in aging counseling, people want to go back and they live mentally, emotionally, they live in their 20s, in their 30s. And when they come back to their conscious life, it is really depressing. And some people actually get depressed with their aging. They find it difficult to accept that reality, so that they find it difficult to face themselves, and they hate themselves. So the worst case scenario, the worst thing that can happen to someone due to the tendency of Bhavaraga is that they can get depressed due to aging. And it could happen due to professional, prospects as well. And despite the fact that you got lots of education, you fail to secure the kind of job that you had always wanted to have. And at that point, and there's no choice but you stick to the job that you are doing right now, and then you are not happy with that. It's been like many years in that job, in that employment, but you are not happy. And so that mentally you trouble. And when it comes to relationships also, you wanted a kind of person in your life, and so that somehow during the first period, the first few months or years of your relationship, you felt that you got the right partner. But later on, when there were differences of opinion, when there were disagreements, and then you happen to get hit by this tendency of Bhavaraga, and then you think that I shouldn't have married this person. I shouldn't have met this person, and then I should have rather remain single forever. And those who are remaining single, and they okay, I should have married. I didn't do that. And then those who are married would think, okay, I should remain single forever. And then those who have divorced might think, okay, I should have divorced. Or maybe I never happened to divorce in case I married someone else. So that's why there's no right or wrong. There's no perfectly right or wrong decision about this Bhavaraga. Because this is all about, and Buddha has used them in a non-judgmental manner. Buddha simply uses these 7 latent tendencies to explain the fragile, the fragile nature of our existence. And he preferred the word existence rather than person or individuality. Because individuality or the persona or the personality, whenever we hear those words, persona, personality, individuality, Pudgala, and we think about the selfhood, whereas Buddha would rather use the term existence, that the whole process, the stream of individuality, the process of individuality, the flow of individuality, the flow of persona, the flow of personality. And then, that again is understood in relation to Atta Bhava. Remember that word that we repeated? Atta Bhava, as opposed to Atta or Atman. Atta Pali, Atman Sanskrit, and Atta Bhava or Atma Bhava. Atma Bhava, so meaning the process of being, the stream of being. Our life is not fixated at a certain point. We can say, based on one life situation, we cannot say, okay, it's me. One life situation only helps us to see our existence in a certain way. When you are partying with a bunch of people, and that confirms, that shows you, that indicates that you are being in a certain way as a social being. But partying with someone, that situation doesn't help you to how to say, to define yourself when you are alone by yourself meditating. And then when you are with your partner, when you are talking to someone, dating someone, when you are on a picnic with someone, on vacation with someone, so at that point, that situation only confirms, only defines a certain aspect of your personality, not the whole thing. So that's why, because a single situation cannot be used to come up with an overall universal conclusion of our existence, our personality. We always need to use different multitude of situations in order for us to come up with what I am. Here I am. It's me. I'm here. So in order to denote that, Buddha purposely use that word bhava. Bhava, being. We are being all the time. We are being something all the time. We are like flowing, like a river. We are streaming, like an energy. And we are not fixated anywhere. So that is bhavaraga. And the last one, number 7, the 7th latent tendency is ignorance, avijja. Now, this is considered the background latent tendency. This runs through. And this purely comes from, this comes from delusion, moha. Because moha and avijja means ignorance, delusion, obsession. Now, this one is the hardest to explain. Remember when I told you that avijja or ignorance, by the way, opposite is vijja, means science or knowing. Vijja means science or knowing. So avijja is not knowing, unknowing, not knowing what you are. That is avijja. Now, given the way I am right now I am sitting in front of my computer, talking to you with my pair of glasses holding in my hand, and at the same time looking around. I'm seated in comfort, but at the same time, does this particular moment, does my experience within this moment defines me? No, not way. Because right now, but afterwards, I would feel like tired. And at that point, I would define myself as a peaceful person based on how far, how long I can take a nap. But at this point, I feel comfortable in this chair because this is a good chair. And then I light the lights here. This is the library room. But a single situation only gives us a fair understanding of our being within the moment in a particular way. There's no perfect definition of being. There's no perfect definition of existence. There's no perfect definition of individuality, persona, or personality. So if I am asked to sit in this chair like few days, and so that the chair would become a source of torture to me. But right now, this is my choice. I chose to sit in this chair, so I'm comfortable. When we are forced to do certain things, then we feel being tortured. When we are allowed to choose what we want to have, and we call it freedom. But again, freedom has own limits. Our freedom has limits. So that there's no way that there's nothing called perfect freedom. And there's nothing called perfect marginalization. We can expand, we can go beyond the bound, we can stop being marginalized, and so that we can stop being structured, putting ourselves into a structure. And then so for that, we need to use what is called free will. Now, this is one thing I was waiting to tell you. Free will. This is the Pali word, swa. Swa is, it's made of two words, chanda. Ta. Swa is self. Chanda is will. Ta is the suffix. Free will. Now, so that, remember, there's a Chinese saying, it is better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. And Buddha said the same thing in a different manner. He says in the Dhammapada, so that people live in the dark by complaining against their own failures, by saying, what laughter, what joy when I am living in the dark. So when I am always sitting on fire, I am in a dark room. And Buddha says people are not willing to come out of the dark to see the light. And then so the individuals themselves have to take responsibility for their own failure to use their free will. Free will, swachandata, and Buddha accepted that. That is one of the core principles in Buddhism, swachandata, free will. Use your free will to release yourself, as long as, because desires are natural, as we discussed that, when Buddha was asked whether desires are natural, good or bad, and Buddha simply says, they are natural. They are natural tendencies. And you have the free will, swachandata, to choose. And then, so that ignorance is, because some people So the avijja is compared to a bird in a cage, and the cage door is left open. The cage, a bird in captivity. The cage door is left open, but the bird is not willing to fly out, fly into freedom. And then the bird, even the door is open, the bird remains in captive. At this point, it's captive by itself. And so that's where Buddha compares avijja, ignorance. So this is called the dark tendency. And remember the room analogy that we used. The room full of all the facilities in your friend's house. You go there, unfortunately there's a power cut, blackout. Not even a candle is there. And so that your friend was giving you the key, and you walk into the room and it's all totally dark. And then even though your friend told you there's a bed, there's a fridge, there's water, there's food, there's a chair, there's a paper and pencil, and there's a TV, there's a remote control and all that. But unless you are very careful, even though everything is there, but the whole building block is all dark inside the room. So ignorance is like that, dark room analogy. It's not that you lack certain, it's not that you lack potential. It's not that you lack talents. It is that you are in the dark and you don't feel like coming out. That's how Buddha explains this ignorance. And then this one, this is called the background tendency. This can run through any of the previous, any of the first 6 latent tendencies. So now it's 3:30. Now any questions? Now we can have a dialogue on our exams.
Fran had a question.
Okay.
She had asked, can you compare Bhava Tanha and Bhava Raga?
Yeah, Bhava Tanha. Okay, Bhava Tanha and Bhava Raga. Okay. Bhava Tanha is your overall, how to say, that is your need. That is, how to say, that is part of the root cause. Bhava Tanha. Bhava Raga is when you put your Tanha into action. 2 different things. Bhava Raga, Bhava Tanha is craving itself. And then having experienced something based on the level of experience, and you are not happy, and you want to try that again. That is called Bhava Raga. It's 2 different things. Is that clear enough? Bhava Raga and Bhava Tanha. Bhava is becoming, right? Tanha is your desire to become, desire to come back. And then you put your desire into action. And having experience, you are not happy. And you feel like repeating that. You feel like trying again and again and again. That is Bhava Raga. So that is the basic need itself, and put in and actualizing your need. So you experience that. Tanha is there, then you experience that. And that experiencing Tanha, when it is experienced, called Bhava Raga. Tanha before being experienced, but as simply as a seed or an inactive tendency, innate tendency, is called Tanha. That's the difference. So that is why Buddha doesn't use the Bhava Tanha here, because Tanha is the basic energy, negative or positive. That's the basic energy. But when it is activated, it becomes Raga. So that's the difference. Basic energy, basic tendency, and then when basic tendencies put it into action and experiences gathered. That's when Bhava Raga is. Any other things? Any other questions? So you can ask, because I don't like to say any more things, because we have, even though there's a limited number of topics, we have discussed them at length, and we have also seen the interrelation, because all these explanations are overlapping, interconnected, and interrelated. Basically, what we have talked about is nirvana, samsara. We start with samsara. We start with creation, that is Atman versus karma. We always use comparative terms. Atma or self being created, and then it comes into being in the form of individual or pudgala, and then and we would stick to what is called a cycle or the circle, that is called samsara. And then simply because we are not happy with we are, even though we come back to the cycle again and again, so that people get fed up with that. And if you want to walk away from the cycle, and if Buddha uses if, and then you may try for nirvana. Nirvana is the permanent ending of repeated suffering. Nirvana is the permanent ending of the repeated sufferings, dukkhas. And then for that, we need to walk a certain path, and that is called Noble Eightfold Path. In order to walk the Noble Eightfold Path, before doing that, first we need to identify why we come back to suffering at that point, and then we understand it is because of desire. And then why we are desirous of, why we have desire. That's the way we are. That is our make, that is our identity. If desires make us happy forever, then desires would be all good. But that's not the case. Unless we repeat those desires, and we are we get disappointed once again. So that there's no end to this repeating. And as a result, then Buddha again recommends, okay, if you want to stop the repeat, and then you never want to, if you never want to come back to cycle in order to repeat the same cycle of agony, frustration, and all that. If you want to avoid that, you better achieve nirvana. Then what is nirvana? Well, at nirvana, you completely stop coming back, and you get your consciousness dissolved. And there we discuss how consciousness runs through different life forms. And then in order to, and then we also talked about what creates dukkha. It's because tanha, or craving. And then so that what if we stop tanha? Then that is called the end of it, and that is called nirvana. But the path is very difficult. You have to stick to a different special path that is called Noble Eightfold Path. And that's how we connected the Four Noble Truths with the samsara. And then again, so that during our empirical existence, we are not happy about the way we are. And that is when Buddha asks us to look at our existence in terms of the three signs of existence, tilakkhana, so three signata of existence, three signata of empirical existence. Yada niccang, whatever brings us dukkha, so that whatever is impermanent, whatever is not forever, and that feeling brings us suffering. And then because it is suffering, it cannot be considered as permanent in terms of soul or Atman. And that is the three signata, the three signs of existence. And things don't exist forever. That means anicca, impermanence. And things don't exist the way we want, even though we want to be happy all the time. Most of the time the opposite happens. So that's called unsatisfaction, that's dukkha. And then if things don't have substance, things don't have how to say, how to say, substantiated essence. Things don't have a fixed or the permanent essence. And so that's what Buddha called it anatman. No atta, no atman, anatman. And that's how Buddha related his teaching of how to say, the three marks of existence with samsara and the Four Noble Truths. And then again, in between we discussed punabhava, rebirth, in terms of the terms rebirth and reincarnation. Unless your purpose is stop the cycle, you will continue to run in the circle. You keep coming back, and that we just define in the paticca-samuppada or the interdependent origination. Depending on this, that arises. When this is, that is. When this arises, that arises. When this ceases, that ceases too. I think you have learned that equation, that formula by heart. That would help you tomorrow and in the final exam. And then what we discussed. And then, so we talked about the karma then. Yeah, well, because of karma, samsara can continue. When you stop the karma, so that when there is no more karma created and you are not interested in coming back, so the karma, all the karmas, remaining karmas become defunct. Otherwise, karma is the fuel. Karma fuels. Karma is the gas or the fuel that provide the energy for our Atman, our consciousness to run in the circle. So that's basically we discussed. So any questions about the exams, anything tomorrow? Or any questions pertaining to the whole coursework that we have discussed? Anything of the fundamental teachings of Buddhism? Anything, something missing? Anything
yes.
that, yes.
Bhante,
Yes.
I typed this into the chat, but I'll read it. Please compare these words. Thank you. Ajivaka, ajivika, which is following the ascetic way of life. Example, the teacher Gosala, and ajiva, livelihood, as in sama ajiva. 5 of the 6 heretical teachers practice ajivaka. And
okay, thank you for getting my attention to that. Okay, these words, thank you. Ajivaka, ajivika, following as it. Okay, ajivakas, yeah. Teacher, Gosala. Livelihood as a samma ajiva. Okay, ajivaka is it was a kind of religious sects, ajivakas. So that it means, means coming, jivaka means live, because you choose a lifestyle that is totally different than the worldly lifestyle that every other, usually the people live. So ajivakas have a structured life. And so that they had constant arguments with other religious sects, ajivakas. So the teacher is Makkali Gosala, ajivaka. But here the pronunciation, because when you romanize these words, they look the same, because ajivakas are a religious text during the Buddha's time. And then here ajiva, ajiva means for life. That's another lifetime. Ajiva, second word as a Pali term. Second one is a Pali. First one is ajivaka, means a religious text. Sorry, always mispronounce that. Religious sect, a kind of religious people during the Buddhist time, ajivakas. Ajiva means lifetime. For example, you say ajiva attamaka sila. 8 lifetime precepts. That is ajiva, that means. And samma ajiva, ajiva means life, time, life, based on the place you use it. Based on the place, life, lifetime, lifestyle, ajivaka. For example, samma ajiva, livelihood. See there again, living. According to the noble description, noble eightfold path, ajiva means livelihood or lifestyle, right livelihood, samma ajiva. But ajiva, where you use ajiva with samma, it means right livelihood. It could be taken as lifestyle as well. But ajiva itself means lifetime or life. And then so that ajiva ka, suffix ka means ka denotes an individual, a person or a group. Ajivaka means a group of people who upholds, who stick to, who adhere to a particular type of structured life. That's called a structured lifestyle. That's called ajivakas. Because ajivakas during the Buddhists, they always complain against other religious people as being too liberal in their spiritual practice. But ajivakas were very tough religious people, meaning they had structured their spiritual lifestyle. That's what it means. So I know these terms are confusing because given the usage, given the way they are used in different terms, different places. Did I answer that question, Fran?
Yes, thank you. They all have to do with life.
Life, exactly.
One's living a life, the other is lifetime.
Yeah, exactly, because it all comes from jiva. Jiva is life force. A is active. Jiva is life force. Jiva means life being activated, life force being activated. Always means active. So.
And ajivaka and ajivika are the same word.
Same word, exactly. Ajivikas are female. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Like upasaka and upasikas. Yeah, that's the feminine. Yeah.
Anything.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, Kyle. So, question: how does the concept of nirvana differ from Hinduism and Jainism? Are they not? They are not the same. Remember, that's going to be part of a sample question, I guess. Like how different nirvana in Buddhism, nirvana in Hinduism, and nirvana in Jainism. Before that, we see the very identity. First we see is what we are supposed to see is Buddhism and Jainism are humanistic, and they don't accept the creator God, Brahman. So that being humanistic, both Buddhism and Jainism defines nirvana as an internal process, whereas Hinduism, being a theistic religion, sees a vertical connection with the Brahman, the creator. So that's the basic difference. So nirvana in Hinduism has a theistic connection because Hinduism is a theistic religion. And whereas nirvana in Jainism and Buddhism, it is simply the fact that you remove all your cankers, all your defilements, and when you are completely done that, you are at nirvana. So that's the basic difference. And whenever you explain nirvana in Hinduism and Jainism and Buddhism, or maybe between in light of Hinduism and Buddhism, then you always start with the type of religion. What type of religion Hinduism is? Well, it's theistic, God-centered, theocentric. While Buddhism, anthropocentric, man-centered, or humanistic. And so that nirvana, in theistic Hinduism, nirvana has a vertical connection, cosmic connection, so it's part of a cosmic process. Whereas in Buddhism, that's right. Nirvana in Jainism is similar to Buddhism. But the one thing Buddha rejected was that Buddha didn't agree with the extreme form of non-violence that Jains adhere to, because and Buddha called non-violence in Hinduism not practical. So that's the difference between Buddhism and Hinduism. Buddhism and Jainism are much closer to each other than either with Hinduism. Okay. So, anything else? Because I'm thinking to end the class not at 4:30, not at 4:30, but 4 or the 3:50. Yeah.
Well, we would end at 4 since we started at 8.
8, yeah. Right. So, any other last questions? Feel free to anything. I mean, about your.
Would it be too much to ask something of the last class?
No, it's okay. No problem.
Can you touch on purification in Hinduism and Buddhism? I mean, I have my notes for it, but yeah, I don't have a whole lot of notes on it.
Oh, okay. Purification, yeah. So in Hinduism in general, purification involves physical purification as well, like taking a few dips in the Ganges, the river, the holy river. And then because in Hinduism, purification as a religious concept involve both your mind and body. Whereas in Buddhism, purification of cleansing of the physical body is only for hygienic purpose. So it has no spiritual value when it comes to the cleansing of the physical body. But Atman, according to Hinduism, the dense physical body protects our pure Atman, so that you are equally responsible to cleanse your physical body on a regular basis, because sin, papa or sin, so that according to Buddhism, sins are in your mind, papa is in your mind. Whereas according to Hinduism, your body also, when your body is not cleansed, so it can affect your spiritual purity as well. So that's why you washed off your sins by taking a few dips, or by bathing in a designated body of water like the Ganges river. So that's the difference. And then remember one Buddhist term that we used, probably this one is I think this is the one I use. Anodaka Sinana, waterless bath. Buddha used that term.
Yeah, I have that one.
Yeah, that's one. So again, a body is the protective shield of Atman, according to Hinduism. So the purification in Hinduism as a religious practice also involves the cleansing of the physical body. Whereas in Buddhism, so the purification only involves the cleansing of your mind, not the physical body. So that's the difference. Because the physical body, Physical body is created by Brahman, because body is part of the creation, so that you are also responsible for maintaining physical purity, because it's not simply Atman that he created, he also created your body. So according to Buddhism, mind has more value than the physical body. And then you might have seen that while beauty is appreciated, physical beauty is appreciated in Buddhism, always in the Satipatthana Sutra and everywhere, always it is the impermanent nature of the body that people are asked to meditate on, think about. So that's the purification, inner versus outer. And then they are called the Punya Tirthas. Punya Tirtha. Designated bathing points, Punya Tirthas, purification points at different bodies, like the Ganges River. Purification points, designated bathing points where you cleanse both your body and physical body. And then Buddha gave this was part of a dialogue between Sundarika and Buddha. Now, as Buddha talked about the mental purification being essentially the inner purification, Sundarika argued that it is otherwise. It is opposite, that purification of it is necessary that the physical body is purified. And that's when Buddha happened to give him a humorous response by saying that in that case, frogs and marine life, like fish, and they must be arahant by birth. And then Buddha was just simply being humorous. And that's the difference between purification. So in Hinduism, it involves start with physical purification. And at the same time, you have to make sure that you don't get your Atman adulterated. Whereas in Buddhism, it is simply the inner purification, meaning the purification of your consciousness.
Thank you. So it's as short as I already have. That's basically what I have in my notes. I didn't know if there was more in depth.
Yeah.
The same with the comparison of karma between Hinduism and Buddhism.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. That's nothing much, actually. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
But the thing is, I think in order to formulate the answer, that's when I remember when I answered those questions in my diploma course. I remember that I always started with the identity of different religions that adhere to those beliefs, like the theistic connection and the non-theistic connection. How far God is involved in purification, how far no such concept is involved in purification process. It's always going along the theistic line and the non-theistic line. Right, yeah. So, because without involving the identity of those two religions, we find it difficult to explain the difference between nirvana and purification. Again, it's purification. Like nirvana is a cognitive process in Buddhism, because Buddhism is non-theistic. It's a cognitive. It is a cosmic process according to Hinduism, because Hinduism is a theistic religion. And when it comes to purification, the same way, the purpose of purification is salvation. Again, purification is an inner process, cognitive in Buddhism, because Buddhism is humanistic or non-theistic, whereas it is necessarily a theistic process too, cosmic process too, because one day sooner or later you have to go back to Brahman, right? So there's other, and then intention too. And then when it comes to karma also, God or Brahman has certain control over your consciousness, because they created that. I remember that one classical Hindu idea that we talked about: when you feel sleepy, tired, and then Brahman would take your consciousness back and he will put it back. That's when you wake up. But later that idea slowly disappeared from mainstream Hindu teachings. But it is mentioned in what Pottapada Sutra. One Pali Sutra, Pottapada Sutra. So that being said, our time is up. And then once again, I was also having second thoughts as to why, having this oral exams for the last minute, we happened to cancel. Lucky me, I didn't waste your time by calling you for oral exams. Sorry if I keep you waiting for my phone call. I never call any one of you for the oral exams. That's when yesterday I heard that California, the university decided they told that oral exams are not considered an exam so for marks. So that's when we decided to turn mock exam into an actual midterm exam. And please consider, because I grade, so I will grade your midterm papers tomorrow, and then be as serious as you are in the final exam. And you know what I mean. So it is the same sample questions. Some of you had sent me the sample answers actually, but I didn't have time to read them. So that I know you will do a great job. I know that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bhante.
So then see you tomorrow.
Yep, 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. Okay, thank you.